Hey, fellow artists. Happy holidays from my family to yours. So I'm still troubleshooting my DMX decoder, which is the central component of my landscape lighting hack. To recap, the goal of my hack is to control landscape lights with DMX 512 technology, allowing me to program outdoor landscape lights like stage lights. The troubleshooting began after my hacked landscape lights failed to work with my decoder, so I decided to set up a control to see if the problem was with my decoder. My DMX decoder is designed to work with RGB LED strips, so I purchased one without knowing that I had to voltage match the LED strip with the power supply I selected for my decoder. My decoder is working with two 24-volt power supplies working in tandem, so I purchased a 24-volt RGB LED strip. Okay, so now we are up to date. In order to connect the LED strip I purchased to one of the RGB plus outputs on the decoder, I had to solder leads onto the corresponding conductors on the LED strip. The next few minutes of this video cover how I soldered the leads onto my LED strip and verified that my soldering was good before connecting my strip to my DMX decoder. So if you're not interested in seeing this part of the troubleshooting process, then head down to the video description box and click on the conclusion timestamp. Okay, to keep my wiring simple, I used 20 gauge cables in different colors to attach the conductors on my LED strip. I used the white for the B plus conductor, green for the green, red for the red, and yellow for blue conductors because I didn't have blue cables. While my soldering iron was heating up, I applied flux to my LED strip's conductor pins and then cut a length of the white cable to solder onto the strip's V plus conductor. I stripped both ends of the cable to expose the copper strands inside and then twisted the copper strands together and then applied flux to the copper on both sides of the cable. Then I tinned or applied solder to the tips of the white cable and then tinned the V plus pin on my LED strip. Now, all I had to do was hold my white cable and the V plus conductor together and bring my soldering iron down on both conductors. Basically, the solder on both conductors glued them together. I repeated this process for the remaining cables and conductors. After the leads were soldered onto my LED strip, I tested my solder joints with a multimeter set to measure continuity. So when you place a multimeter test lead on the solder joint and then the other test lead onto the stripped end of the cable, you should hear a beep. All of my cables beeped except for the yellow cable, which corresponded to the blue conductor on the LED strip. I applied more solder to the joint between the yellow cable and the blue LED conductor, and that solved the continuity issue. Now, to make sure that I didn't ruin my LED strip during the soldering process, because that's a possibility, I decided to connect it to its original microcontroller and power supply. While the power supply was unplugged, I inserted sewing pins into the microcontroller's output connector, and then I connected my LED strip leads to the corresponding sewing pins using cables with alligator clips. I plugged the power supply and voila, we've got light. I use the LED strip's RF controller to change colors. My LED strip is clearly working and is ready to accept power and pulse width modulation signals from my DMX decoder. So I finally crimped my LED strips leads into the corresponding output conductors on my DMX decoder, and nothing happened. I changed between the pre-programmed functions on the decoder using the dip switches. Nothing happened. I contacted tech support again with my new findings and I'm waiting to hear back from them. But at this point, having eliminated all the LED strip problems, I'm convinced that the problem lies with the decoder. And if tech support doesn't have anything new for me to try, then I will remove the housing from my decoder and try to solder my LED strip directly onto the decoder's board. Why would I do that, you ask? It could be that the decoder's crimps aren't making solid connections between the LED strips conductors and the output conductors on the board of the DMX decoder. If soldering directly onto the decoder doesn't resolve the issue, then the problem is beyond my ability to fix, and I will need to buy a new decoder to hopefully resume my project. So I was hoping to have one of my Granddaddy Oaks cosplay as Telperion, glowing with the power of LEDs and dancing to the tune of my DMX operator by Christmas. However, it looks like I'm going to miss that deadline. But I hope you're enjoying these troubleshooting videos and finding some value in them. Again, I will release my build notes to my super subs once I get everything working, because obviously it will be a while until I can produce part 2 of my landscape lighting hack tutorial. You can become a super sub for free, by the way, by subscribing to my newsletter using the link in the video description box. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Chaito.